All right, welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon reviews. Final installment for the season. 4 reviews, 4 games up this week. The first of which is called Stratogun. Right, so Stratogun is a ultra-fast arcade space shooter where a fraction of a second will decide whether you live or die. Honestly, it's not that unforgiving, but we'll get to that in a bit. Unlock weapons, ships, and perks to conquer the orbit of death, as well as the leaderboard. Right, so as you may be able to see on screen, this game, at first glance, might look like a reinterpretation of the arcade classic Asteroids. And it is, to a certain extent, but that's not really the big frame of reference here. And that's something that not only doesn't hail from the golden age of arcades, but is something I don't think we've touched upon, or at least not for a good long while. I suppose I'll direct a question to Petty at this point. Petty, are you familiar with the game Super Stardust?
I believe I've vaguely heard of it, but I do not remember playing it personally.
I mean, that was a big deal at the on like the PlayStation Network back in the PlayStation 3 days.
Yeah, that's probably where I heard about it from, but I didn't have PS4 till a lot later in its lifespan.
Yeah. And I think, I'm trying to remember if, I want to say that Stardust appeared on the PlayStation 4 in some capacity. I know there were a whole bunch of these made for the PlayStation Network family, like over the course from the PlayStation 3 to the PlayStation 4, up till the point where Housemarque quit the like arcade shooter genre.
Mm-hmm.
Point is, Super Stardust is the real point of reference here. Like, if you look at some gameplay, it's got the same spheroid gameplay, for lack of a better term. So it's basically a fusion of Asteroids and Stardust, combined with the neon retro aesthetics that I occasionally have to complain about. Because, yes, the principal complaint I have is very much here. In that, dear God, tone down the neon. I like being able to see.
Do you have eye strain? Play this for a few hours. We'll find out.
Yes. It's like, you can ease up on the effects, guys.
And this is in VR. No thank you. I like having vision.
Let me go find my thing that says what Nintendo's excuse for the Virtual Boy was.
Couldn't help you there.
Well, no, the whole thing was eye strain.
Yeah. But it's not as bad as some other games. Like, my gold standard for this kind of fuckery is Jetpack Refueled, and it's not that level of neon. It's mostly with the bomb effect, the spark here. If those could be toned down in some capacity, then I think we'd be fine.
Yeah, probably. I still, my kind of photosensitive sister, I probably wouldn't let her play this.
Mm.
And I'm glad she's getting ready for bed right about now, so I don't have to worry about her, finding out if this will trigger something.
That's a fair point. Also, I don't quite like the contrast that's going on here. Like, the whole black and red.
Yeah.
It, like, it's not working for me for some reason here.
I mean, I have seen worse, though, but yeah, it's definitely...
Like...
I think it's more because it's less of a red and closer to an orange to my eyes.
Possible. And I know it's not the only color, because there's, like, later on you'll unlock a blue world.
Mm.
But
okay, so it's not, like, just that color.
Yeah, no.
I mean, unless you're not very good, then it is just that color.
Well, that's, how do I put this? Really a matter of progression.
Yeah.
Because, okay, the progression system is probably the most modern thing, quote unquote, that you could find here. I mean, obviously this is all modern, but to get to the core of what I'm talking about here, this game has a roguelike progression system. I don't think you would necessarily classify this as a roguelike, because yes, technically it's procedurally generated in the sense that it's tossing, random objects your way.
I don't think it's more of a roguelike than Original Asteroids was.
Right, that's what I'm getting at. But the point is, you do build up your skills as you go along here. The actual goal of the game here is to last as long as you can, get your multiplier up. That's another nod to modernity. Your multiplier is really important.
Well, yeah, it makes your score go up much faster.
Yeah, but emphasis on multiplayer is a much more modern concept than it was. In fact, I'm trying to think of any sort of golden age arcade that even bothered having a multiplier.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Nothing except for maybe, freaking, what's the word? Pinball.
Right, like, that particular mechanic hadn't seeped into the larger game space. Whereas, you get a score attack game from, like, even the Wii era, like a lot of the light gun games, like Link's Crossbow Training comes to mind, for example. Or I want to say, like, Wii Play had it. I know Link's Crossbow Training had a particular emphasis on the multiplier.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Same deal here, but it's tied into a progression system now. So that's how this game is more quote-unquote modern than other quote retro revivals, end quote. Because, what you're playing for here is ultimately building up your ship. And unlocking things. And not just upgrading your weapons, your defense. That's the basic stuff. Another nod to at least 360 era modernity perks are here as well. Move faster, have the enemies go slower, etc., 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 etc. So, but on the other hand, it hasn't forgotten the old school in the sense there are leaderboards. At least I think, yeah.
There are leaderboards. I keep getting, letting out, oh, you're in the top 100.
Right. So you are still playing for score, but like I said, there's a more substantive goal, or what we would call the meta these days, as well. So, it's like this game is actually a pretty fascinating release in that light, which is good because otherwise, honestly,
5 out of 10, my eyes hurt type of affair.
Yeah. It's also like I know there are people who like this kind of game, who will swear by it, who says that this is the actual core of gaming and not like games need to be fun, and this is the purity of fun. This is a whole school of thought in the community. It's one that I don't ascribe to. Because I'll be honest, like I like this, but it's not something like I admire the attempts to have some long-term sustainability here, but the core loop here isn't that interesting.
No. And also the whole eye strain thing. If I played this as much as I played a JRPG, I would probably be blind.
Yeah. I mean, mind you, I do remember the Super Stardust games had this exact same problem. Even more so since it had more neon. Like, it's just, I can't really compare it to the Super Stardust games because I've never played one of those. So I don't know how well this stacks up directly against it. Against Asteroids, truth be told, I'd rather play Asteroid. And not just because of, once again, neon problems. But this is going to sound like a weird complaint at first, but this game controls too well.
I don't think it controls as well as much as the weird perspective kind of makes me a little nauseous.
That could just have that could just be a problem with geometry.
Yeah, or also motion sickness.
That too. I'm just saying, that's because of the curvature of the sphere. But in terms of like comparing this directly to Asteroids, like the whole deal with Asteroids was you didn't have this kind of precision control on most versions.
Your control was fairly precise. The problem was it was acceleration, not precision.
Well, it was a more realistic control scheme than what you saw in other arcade games, because Asteroids has actual Newtonian physics. They're not. They're approximations. Yes, but
for being what 70 something, that's astonishing.
Yeah. But yeah, this game is much more about throwing stuff at you, and honestly, once again, a lot of the difficulty is just the visual noise. It's not it's not just the blinding neon,
especially considering the small size of the field of play.
Yeah, if I had a bigger play field and like these things didn't splinter out as much, I would probably feel a lot better.
Yeah, the field becomes very crowded, and I have lost my ship more than once.
Yeah, also making you a little more visually distinct would help.
Yeah, I think that's what I really don't like about this contrast, is it's not contrasty enough.
Right.
Like it's like I'm losing my ship not because of difficulty, but because the visual palette is so awful.
Yeah.
So, is it?
And like, especially as your health gets low, it literally blends in with the field, which makes it even worse.
Yeah. So, this is a tough one. Because on the one hand, the core gameplay conceit, the fundamentals are sound. It's just the execution here is a bit more lacking than I think the developers intended.
Mm-hmm. And most of the execution stuff is not load bearing, you can't fix it or you break the whole game. It can be fixed and overall help the game. So these are all fixable problems we've gone over. It's just a matter of if the dev would want to, go back and fix them or not, or if it's a vision issue at that point.
What we're probably talking about maybe too fundamental to fix. I'm like,
well, the issue with the flooring kellers is something that can be changed.
Right. I'm just wondering, the play field.
Yeah, the play field issue, that's something. It's probably a option depending on the engine they're using. I
get that they want the 3-dimensionality of it to be important, but it could be 1.5 times the size and still do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm concerned that that kind of thing is tied to a million different things under the hood.
Fair.
And
but at least definitely the flooring keller thing can be changed, and doing something with the ship to make it pop more against whatever flooring you have.
Yeah. Anyway, so in terms of pricing, so regular price is is $10.99, $11, which I don't think I could recommend.
If this was $5, sure, have at it, boss.
Okay, on that note, currently right now it's going for half off.
This is definitely one of those $5 games. You put on your Steam Deck, I guess if it's compatible, and shoot the shit for a couple runs while you're waiting for something.
Yeah, going back to Super Stardust, I do remember a couple of people swearing by the PSP version of that back in the day. It made for a good portable game.
Yeah, and this is similar vein. If I had to wait somewhere and had a Steam Deck on hand, then this could probably be something to kill some time with. Because the runs are short enough, you don't have to worry about missing something important going on. If you're grinding in an RPG or something. But, you still get a little bit of enjoyment while you're waiting for something.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a solid game. It's just some tweaking for a sequel, I think, is needed.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that'll about do it for Stratogun here. Be sure to tune in after the break as Petty Fan reviews Portal Fantasy.